got to do better. We want to make sure that it's convenient for people to vote safely.
This week in Pennsylvania, lawmakers are back, and the most powerful woman in the House pushes for election reforms. House Republicans spend a lot of energy blasting Governor Shapiro's energy plan that would tax polluters in the energy sector and, they argue, raise your electric bill. And Senate Republicans call on Governor Shapiro to send PA National Guard troops to Texas to secure the southern border. Will he? Hello. Welcome to This Week in Pennsylvania. I'm Dennis Owens. We're covering hot topics in PA policy and politics, as well as the issues that are important to you and your family. Well, the legislature returned to session in Harrisburg this week for the first time since December, and House Democrats, comparatively speaking, are enjoying a comfortable majority.
I, Jim Prokopiak.
Bucks County Democrat Jim Prokopiak was sworn in this week, replacing John Galloway, who was elected district judge. Prokopiak is the all-important 102nd Democrat in the 203-person chamber, though less important because one Republican is deployed, another resigned, so the Democrat majority right now is currently 102 to 99. House Republicans' first order of business was to criticize Governor Shapiro's energy plan that would tax the carbon produced by power plants. Shapiro says he would use the money to incentivize cleaner energy and, he argues, create good-paying jobs. Republicans argue it will drive up electric bills on consumers and drive out job creators.
I can say with confidence that this proposal, as written, is dead on arrival. Governor Shapiro's energy policy is nothing but a government money grab and a direct attack on job creators and workers across Pennsylvania.
I know that there'll be some folks who think this plan is too big and too bold, who are used to doing nothing. You know what? Now's the time for big and bold. Now's the time to lead again here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you all.
Now, the governor said if lawmakers approve his plan, he would withdraw from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, RGGI, which is currently on appeal in the state Supreme Court. Well, the most powerful woman in the House used her bully pulpit this week, pushing for early voting and same-day registration. On the same day, the Senate moved to eliminate drop boxes for mail-in ballots.
Good afternoon.
To increase registration and participation, House Speaker Joanna McClinton wants to allow in-person voting 2 weeks before Election Day and voter registration on Election Day.
This is the birthplace of democracy and our nation. So we've got to do better. We want to make sure that it's convenient for people to vote safely.
Yeah, I think that's a horrible idea.
House Republican leader Brian Cutler says same-day registration would add to Election Day chaos. As for convenience,
I would offer that it already is as easy as possible. You can register online, you can register by paper.
This same-day voter registration is a welcome modern-day reform.
Lisa Dealey runs elections for Philadelphia, the state's biggest county.
And what it will do is it'll cut down on errors. It'll actually,
How so?
Because we can fix people's record in real time.
Remember, counties run elections, not lawmakers and not the state. The County Commissioners Association said it would need more money and more time, adding, while many of these changes are well-intended, Pennsylvania's election system and laws are currently not set up to facilitate their implementation. While the House discussed expanding voter access, the Senate pushed contraction. Senate Bill 99 would eliminate drop boxes.
I'm not going to be supporting Senate Bill 99 because I do believe that we should be adding more drop boxes, not less.
But it passed out of committee. It's Chris Dush's bill.
This bill is not intended to undermine convenience, but to uphold electoral integrity.
I look forward this spring to sit down with Senator Dush to talk about how to make it easier for people to vote.
McClinton's early voting would take effect in 2026, same-day registration 2027. And that primary election 1 month away on April 23rd. Well, should Pennsylvania National Guard troops deploy to Texas to defend the southern border? State Senator Doug Mastriano, a 30-year Army veteran, says yes. And his resolution urging Governor Shapiro to send PA's finest into Operation Lone Star passed that chamber. Texas Governor Greg Abbott asked states for support. 14 of them have obliged. Mastriano says the undocumented put a strain on schools, hospitals, and law enforcement, and that porous border is deadly.
We have about 5,000 fentanyl deaths every year in Pennsylvania, and most of that fentanyl is coming across the Mexican border.
Governor Shapiro, in a statement, dismissed the idea, saying securing the border and reforming immigration is the job of Congress and the federal government. Governor Shapiro and many lawmakers do support the legalization of recreational marijuana. In fact, the governor's budget is counting on $166 million next year and more thereafter. A lot of green. But there are lawmakers raising red flags, and this week noted that money has a cost.
Big business and big government will cash in temporarily, and 10, 15, or 20 years down the road, we will have the warnings, the public service announcements, and the marijuana cessation programs paid for by the taxpayers.
Supporters of legalizing adult use cannabis note that nearly all of Pennsylvania's neighbors already have it and are cashing in. A Senate bill would require all K-12 schools to teach computer science, which some are currently not doing. As part of that, there would be social media training for students young and old. It's Republican Rosemary Brown's bill.
I do believe that these pieces of managing social media, of working within social media, understanding the dangers of social media are a very important part, and they will have to play a role in our education system if we are preparing the student for real world.
And the bill would require the State Department of Education to develop that computer science curriculum. Well, the state Senate passed a bill to let veterans save a few bucks on license plate renewals. Right now, a replacement for a military plate costs $13. However, standard plates are replaced for free when they can no longer be read from a short distance away. The bill now heads to the State House. Northeast Philadelphia, not exactly the state's most fertile area for agriculture, but this week it made a splash in the dairy world. Governor Shapiro and Ag Secretary Russell Redding announced a cooperative association with Maryland and Virginia milk producers. They purchased a manufacturing plant in the city. 80% of that association's dairy farmers are in Pennsylvania. The expansion project will not only keep existing jobs, but the plan is to double the amount of milk production.
It's an exciting day, of course, for Pennsylvania agriculture, not just for our 720 or so dairy farmers who are members of your co-op, but really for all 5,000 of Pennsylvania's dairy farmers, because we've all been waiting for a big announcement like this here.
As part of the deal, the Commonwealth gave the association $10 million in grants and loans. Hunters had a really big year in Penn's Woods last season. The Game Commission says a record number of hunting licenses were sold for the 2022-23 season, 164,000 of them. Also, hunters bagged 423,000 white-tailed deer, which is up from the previous season. Governor Shapiro will not bag a win in his NCAA college basketball poll. He released his March Madness picks publicly. He has the Wildcats of Kentucky winning it all. They were stunned in their opener on round one. Also stunning, only one Pennsylvania team is in the tournament. Normally it's much more than that. And that one team, also stunning, Duquesne. The governor has the Dukes winning 2 games, by the way. Stay with us. We're coming back to talk water and the trend of private companies buying municipal authorities and then raising rates. We've got the head of a huge water company here. That's on tap when we come back.
This PA Chamber Minute is paid for by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry.
As the statewide voice of business, the PA Chamber works hard to enact pro-business policies that help our economy and communities grow. As part of this effort, we are constantly tracking lawmakers' voting records on issues that will help businesses invest, expand, and hire employees. It's important to stay up to date on how the lawmakers representing you in Harrisburg are voting on legislation that will directly impact your business and community. You can track how your local lawmakers are voting on key business issues with the PA Chamber's new and improved legislative scorecard. Located on our website, this tool allows you to see how your state rep or senator voted on priority issues for the statewide business community. It's going to take all sides working together to strengthen our state economy and make Pennsylvania more competitive. Make your voice heard. Scan the QR code on your screen to check it out today.
Welcome back to This Week in Pennsylvania. We are joined now by Justin Ladner, president of Pennsylvania American Water. Welcome, Alabama transplant, so I want to give you a heads up on the accent, but you say you love Central Pennsylvania.
We do. We've been here for about 15 months, Dennis. Really enjoying it so far.
I don't think people realize when you say water company, it's really two different things. One, drinking water, turn on the tap, also then wastewater. Those are actually two separate processes.
Two separate processes, but there's a connection. It's kind of the overall renewal of water.
According to your website, you keep our lives flowing, so we thank you for that. Pennsylvania American Water, you got a big footprint. 2.3 million Pennsylvanians you service, is that correct?
Nearly 20% of the Commonwealth's population.
Okay, I want to talk to you though. A big issue there's your footprint right there, we're seeing it. Since 2016, more than 20 municipal water authorities have been bought up by private companies like yours. In fact, your company has done 11 of those.
Correct.
Why are we doing that? What's going on? I guess the PUC, you can't just buy it, the Public Utility Commission has to approve. Is that right? Just tell us how that works.
It is. So what you're referencing is fair market value, and that was a conscious decision by the legislature around 2016 to provide a tool to help with regionalization and consolidation. There's 7,000 public water systems in the state of Pennsylvania. Okay, when you compare that to electric systems, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So this legislation was enabled to help drive some consolidation for those that wanted to get out of the water business, municipalities or wastewater, to have a path to do so.
But as part of Act 12, they allow you to bake the cost of acquiring those systems into then rate increases. Is that right? And why is that necessary?
So we're regulated by the Public Utility Commission, as you mentioned, which is our economic regulator. That legislation allows us to take that purchase price and put it into what's rate base, which is what drives our ultimate revenue requirement, which is borne out in the cost to the customers, their rates. Yes.
But a trend we're seeing is, or what average water bill customers are seeing is, you guys come in, private company comes in, buys, and then the rates seem to immediately go up. And do you understand why they're frustrated with that? And explain to them, why is that happening?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do hear it often, very sensitive to it. There's a lot of opportunity to increase awareness to our public on what the true cost of service is, Dennis. And with us being regulated by the Public Utility Commission, our costs are 100% transparent. We have to show what it costs to treat that water and wastewater. And when you do a full cost of service and you're complying with all the environmental standards and you are proactively putting in the investment in the capital, those costs typically are higher than some of the municipal customers. And that transition is a challenge, but there's a lot of reasoning behind that.
And in a recent hearing, there was a hearing on this whole issue, and you were pretty forceful in saying, in your testimony, said, it's not like we're acquiring perfect systems. We're acquiring things that need a lot of help. Tell us about that.
That's exactly true. And, people differ on troubled system definition, and I would argue with you, there are a lot of troubled systems out there, and the degree of rehabilitation varies. But as an example, in one of our systems that we acquired through that process you talked about, Exeter, it's a $20 million purchase price. They had 4 million gallons of raw sewage going out while the municipality owned them, directly into the Schuylkill River. So one of the things that we had to do immediately upon acquiring them was a DEP consent order, environmental protection, fix that pump that ran for 24 hours uninterrupted of raw sewage into the Schuylkill River.
But at that same hearing, the head of the North Penn Water Authority, which is outside Philadelphia, was less than complimentary of takeovers. You were sitting right there, but I want everybody to take a listen. I'll let you react. Take a listen to this.
People should see privatization for what it really is, which is a scam. It is a loan disguised as a gift, wrapped up with empty promises that must be paid back with interest through exorbitant rate increases, resulting in no better service to the customers, while the private company's upper management and investors fill their own pockets with obscene amounts of profits, and they laugh all the way to the bank.
So how do you react to that?
Yeah, Dennis, it's extremely disappointing, and I couldn't disagree more. We are regulated by the Public Utility Commission. All of our O&M costs are straight pass-through. We make no money on that. We are allowed a fair return on our investment in terms of our capital. We do have shareholders. No benefit to customers. I just told you about what happened in Exeter. I've got multiple more examples. The city of McKeesport, a city that was, I think, Act 47 on the verge. They took our proceeds, paid down their debt, and oh, by the way, we stopped the raw sewage going into abandoned mines and made their water safer in the wastewater treatment.
How frequently is your company actually approached by municipalities saying, hey, this isn't quite working for us, do you want to take it over?
Sure. We are approached all the time about municipalities across the Commonwealth that want to get out of the business for a variety of reasons. I haven't even talked about forever chemicals, lead service lines. The 2.4 million you talked about, when I go to sleep at night, I'm liable for their safety. You talk about Flint, Jackson, Mississippi, and there are plenty of local officials that just want to get out of that business, and they know they don't have the expertise as well. And they want to hand it over to somebody that does this all the time.
My last question is, people might be watching this saying, water's not a luxury, water's a necessity. And maybe there needs to be government oversight and not for-profit companies overseeing that. What would you say to that?
So everybody in the state of Pennsylvania, Dennis, is entitled to clean, safe water and wastewater. Okay, I think it's in the Constitution.
It is.
There are multiple solution providers. We are one of them. We are not saying we should be the only one. There are plenty of municipalities that can provide clean, safe water and wastewater. And in those cases, we absolutely applaud that. But there are plenty that cannot. And that's what this legislation, the policy in Pennsylvania supports us being a part of that.
Do you support voters having a right to vote on whether or not their municipal authority should be taken over by a company like yours? That was one proposal.
That's a proposal that's out there. I think there's a lot to be said for communities voting in their local officials to make decisions on their behalf and really entrust those local officials to know what's in their best interest.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. He has 3 degrees from Alabama, so it's roll tide for you, right?
It is roll tide for me.
Thanks so much. Stay with us. Much more This Week in Pennsylvania when we come back. Welcome back to This Week in Pennsylvania. We are joined by our analyst, Christopher Nicholas of the Eagle Consulting Group, Danielle Gross, Clearpoint Communications. Okay, Pancho Villa in 1916, we sent troops to the southern border from the Pennsylvania National Guard. Governor Rendell in 2008, at the request of President Bush, sent them down there as well. Should Josh Shapiro send PA National Guard troops to the southern border as it was passed in the Senate this week?
Honestly, I think that that's a little bit of a stretch. If the Republicans in Congress had worked together with Democrats to pass the border bill that they just kind of kicked to the curb, perhaps we wouldn't be talking about mobilizing Pennsylvanians to go down to Texas.
A bunch of other states have done it.
14?
Yeah, that's a bunch, Dennis. I don't think it would hurt. It would give them an opportunity to, train in a different locale, in a different environment. And, a lot of those costs are kind of already baked in to the National Guard, so it's not a big hit to the budget. And even if you look at Democrats in surveys, they say immigration is a big concern as well, let alone Republicans and independents.
Governor Shapiro, by the way, just for the record, called it a political stunt, so he didn't really want to engage in that.
Well, he would know political stunts where he lives.
Let's talk about elections, because April 23rd is the primary elections coming up. We're less than a month away. This week, Joanna McClinton used her bully pulpit. The House Speaker doesn't normally come out and lead a bill thing like that, but she wants to see 2 things. One, we'll take them one by one. In-person early voting, meaning 2 weeks before an election, you're going to the place, you're presenting your credentials and you're voting, but it's in person. If you just don't quite feel comfortable putting it in a mailbox, you can go in person. What do we think of that, Chris?
So our county bureau of elections are already swamped, understaffed. Now we're going to give them a whole new raft of responsibility. So it'll cost money. I mean, if the
just
people,
like sending the National Guard to Texas will cost money, but that's bad.
If the people of Pennsylvania want 2 weeks of in-person voting, now you can do it by mail. You want to go to the county court, it'll just cost money. Just go ahead and pay for it. I noticed that she did not mention where the money would come for that.
Well, technically, if you've applied for a mail-in ballot already, you can go as soon as you get your mail-in ballot and return it in person to the county offices. But
that's only a few people.
Early voting happens in a lot of states that are conservative. It's already something that they have, I believe, in Georgia, in Texas. Yeah, a lot of states that heck of more conservative than Pennsylvania, already have that option.
A lot of southern states did it to save money because they didn't want to build out their election system and have a lot of voting precincts like we have. We already have those. Most people live less than 2 miles from their voting precinct.
Okay, we're going to come back, take a quick break. We're going to be right back, talk about same-day registration. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Week in Pennsylvania. April 23rd is the election day. Imagine I wake up and realize I hadn't registered to vote, but on election day, I can go down to where I vote and register and then vote. That's what the Speaker of the House would like to see, same-day registration. What do you think?
I'm not opposed to anything that gives more people access to vote or gives people, a lot of times, we got a lot of stuff going on. Things can slip your mind, whatever. I've been registered since I was 18. It's not me. So I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think that with an asterisk, that if the legislature would pass any kind of bill like this, it needs to be well in advance of a presidential election.
Yeah, none of these would, by the way, her proposals don't take effect until 27.
So I will say clearly it's a bad idea. Yeah. You're going to make the people who work at your local poll turn into law enforcement to make sure someone actually lives there. They're already overburdened.
They already have to check ID, though, the first time that you vote.
You can register to vote 2 weeks before an election. That's good enough.
Okay, let's talk about water, because that was the conversation we just had. There is a trend in Pennsylvania of private companies taking over municipal authorities. A lot of times the municipal authorities, because the officials running it didn't want to raise taxes, they let the infrastructure really go. And so there is a lot of money that goes to getting it up to snuff, right? Or is there you have a problem with this?
Well, there is, and that's fair. I think that's fair to say. But I live in a municipality where my sewer bill, just to flush my toilet, every month is $106 a month. That once it was taken over by a private entity, it has more than almost tripled. Yeah. And then my neighbors in Newberry Township recently fought off a privatization of their water entity because they saw what happened to me and
you're
folks
going to pay
around.
more. You're going to pay more money whether it goes to the water company or your town.
I think that's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Today is our 7th anniversary. We have the proof. 7 years ago today, we started this show. There's the picture. Somebody had darker hair. There's Chris Nicholas, and I think somebody picked up Brittany from high school to bring her onto the set.
Yeah.
She has been the wunderkind. She was a child wizard.
So
7 years.
Thanks for having us in your homes for 7 years. When we started off, we were in 1/3 of the state. Now we're in 100% of the state.
5 seconds, last word.
I'm just glad to be here.
As am I. See you next week on This Week